Hello and welcome to another episode of Latitude. I'm Maruf Raza. Although Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh was in the US to address the UN General Assembly, the key focus of his trip to the US was his meeting with America's President Barack Obama. Even though there has been considerable media interest and speculation about his proposed meeting with his Pakistani counterpart Nawaz Sharif, which will now take place under the shadow of a major terror attack near Jammu. And later in the show, in a reminder of the 26/11 attacks on Mumbai, an affiliate terror group of the Al-Qaeda held a mall under siege for 4 days, killing about 60 people, injuring many more in Kenya's capital of Nairobi. The terror group says this is an act of revenge against the Kenyan army's actions in Somalia. Our guests this week are Chidanand Rajghatta of the Times of India, who has been following the Prime Minister on his trip to the United States and has been extensively reporting on the Prime Minister's visit and has written on Indo-US relations in the past. Also, Mr. Rajghatta will be joining us from Washington, D.C. And to discuss the events in Nairobi, we will be joined by Mr. Ray Locker, the enterprise editor of USA Today, who has been writing and commenting on military, intelligence and terrorism-related issues from across the world. Ray Locker will be also joining us from Washington, D.C. While the focus of Dr. Manmohan Singh's visit to the US was to re-energize Indo-US relations, the terror attacks in Jammu seem to have drawn the attention of even President Barack Obama. But Dr. Singh insisted that he will go ahead with his meeting with his Pakistani counterpart Nawaz Sharif despite the attacks.
The burst of fire was
First strike terror and then talk. Pakistan has done it again. Major Fedayeen attacks by Pakistan militants on Thursday in Hiranagar and Samba sector of Jammu left 10 dead, of which 4 were cops, 4 army men, including 1 lieutenant colonel and 2 civilians. This even as Prime Minister Manmohan Singh landed in the United States. He will be meeting his Pakistani counterpart on the 29th in New York. No assurance from Pakistan, no forward movement on terror, but both sides determined to talk.
State-sponsored cross-border terrorism is of particular concern to India, also on account of the fact that the epicenter of terrorism in our region is located in our neighborhood in Pakistan. There can be no tolerance for state sheltering, arming, training or financing terrorists, nor can they absolve themselves of the responsibility to prevent their territories from being used to launch acts of terrorism.
India has been repeatedly saying that these attacks can't take place without support from the Pakistan army, but Pakistan remains to be in denial.
Any activity that takes place anywhere has some sort of an institutional role of Pakistan in that. I think by saying this, by using this narrative, actually one would be strengthening the hands of those whom you want to defeat.
Even as tensions escalate, India looks at the US to rein in Pakistan, which was the top focus of talks between Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and President Obama.
India would like the United States to mount pressure on Pakistan when it comes to combating extremism. But Obama's invite to Nawaz in October is also a sign that the US needs Pakistan as much on these issues, especially also with the drawdown of troops in Afghanistan over the next 5 years, over and above the outgoing Indian Prime Minister. And even as terror and the latest attacks stop the talks here between Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and President Obama, India and the US also had a lot to discuss on other fronts, including trade and investment.
While terror was the focus, both India and the United States have a lot of things on their plate, which needed numerous levels of talks and discussions. The last one being Foreign Minister Salman Khurshid meeting his counterpart Secretary Kerry. The discussions focused on defense deals, economic cooperation, energy and climate, but most importantly, the civil nuclear deal and the liability concerns.
World's two largest democracies, countries that have for a very long time been invested in the peace and prosperity of their own people, that there is a natural convergence between the United States and India.
Even as the whole gamut of engagements is clearly spelt out, US realizes that Manmohan Singh's government has its limitations. The big question being, with the US having many more important things lined up, how much support can India expect? Is the Manmohan-Nawaz meet all about optics? Will there be any substance to the talks, or will it be yet another exercise in futility and a desperate attempt by a government that has lost ground back home? Before the UPA faces elections, this could be Manmohan's last-ditch effort to show some achievement on the foreign policy front.
Joining us from Washington, D.C. is Chidanand Rajghatta of the Times of India, who has been following the Indian Prime Minister on his trip to the US. Chidanand, my first question to you is, will the offer of certain new concessions by New Delhi to Washington, particularly for nuclear trade and commerce and defense contracts, be good enough to re-energize Indo-US relations, or has the Obama administration lost its enthusiasm for India?
Well, Maruf, the US-India relationship is not a one-item thing or a one-time thing. It's not something which depends on one big leap. Over the last few years, we have understood that after the nuclear deal, it's an incremental process. Every meeting, every engagement adds a little more. It becomes bigger, broader, deeper, wider. So yes, what the advancement in this nuclear deal will do this time is push it along a little further, remove some more doubts, some more wrinkles. We are told that Westinghouse and NPCIL will conclude some kind of early works agreement, or at least iron out some of the wrinkles that have held this up. But there's still a long way to go, and like I said, this is a work in progress. US-India relationship is a work in progress. There was a White House official who briefed us a couple of days ago, who actually said they're looking at the US is looking at India, the relationship with India over the next century. So there's plenty of time to go, and I guess this will move it along. It will certainly move it along. It'll help, and not just that. There are issues of trade. There are issues of visa, and these are perpetual issues. These are two countries which are democracies. They're lively democracies. There's a lot of lobbying, pull, push. It's not it's not a sort of client, relationship or master-client relationship. This is a relationship of not equal powers, but fairly engaged powers, which will, agree, disagree, scrap, fight, but will eventually move things along. So the short answer is yes, the nuclear agreement moves along a little more.
One area of strategic cooperation between India and the US would perhaps be on the high seas. But how do you see India and the US cooperating to contain China's growing influence in Asia?
For the longest time, we used to talk about, the Indian interest in high seas, going from, the Straits of Malacca to the Hormuz Straits and so on. For that expression seems to have dropped off the radar, but I think it's very much alive, and I think there's a greater degree of cooperation between US Navy and the Indian Navy than we actually see in public. If you notice, by the way, there's a lot of the piracy issue has again dropped off the radar, because I think there's a fair degree of advanced cooperation between the two countries. And now, of course, the whole incident in Kenya actually brings, the Somali issue up front again. But the point here is, I think there's regular military-to-military dialogue going on, including, in the naval sphere. I don't know if both countries want to publicly talk about containing China. But yeah, sure as hell, they're going to collaborate quietly, have more exercises, more exchanges. The Indians haven't bought a whole lot of naval stuff from the United States. A lot of it is on the Air Force side, in terms of large the Hercules C-130 transport, and now they're talking of Chinooks and Apache helicopters. But there's a lot of potential on the naval side. Some purchases were made a few years before, but I think there's a lot more potential. And there's also, cooperation in terms of patrolling, in terms of joint exercises, which they've been conducting. But specifically about containing China, I don't think it's an expression that either country wants to use very much in public. At the end of the day, I think the United States buys into India's contention that it needs a bigger, better Navy, and it has ambitions going back to the 80s of a blue water Navy. If you remember Rajiv Gandhi during his prime ministership, that was when the term blue water Navy for India became very fashionable, dropped off the radar for a while, but I think there's a quiet execution in this sphere.
For India, the litmus test of Washington's sincerity towards India would be how America would go around taming Pakistan and getting Pakistan to dismantle its anti-Indian terror machinery now and not after 2014. And do you think this is a realistic Indian expectation?
Maruf, Pakistan is a complicated question for the United States. They, for the longest time, have had a different, reading of Pakistan than we do. Their way of handling Pakistan is to try and, sort of coax Pakistan out of its steep dive into fundamentalism, into extremism. Also buy their, literally pay Pakistan to get out of it. And one gets the feeling now that they realize that it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. So the last sort of couple of years, there's been a hardening of attitudes in this town towards Pakistan, and that's very evident in the kind of punitive drone strikes which have gone on relentlessly despite Pakistan yelling and screaming about it. And also there is not as much military cooperation. You don't hear of too many weapons being sold or too much aid. They keep some stuff going through the Kerry-Lugar Act. But by and large, I think the US has realized that they're not going to be able to buy their way out of it. There's an attempt now again to invite Nawaz, right when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh landed, just hours before that, the White House put out an invitation to Nawaz Sharif asking him to come to Washington on October 23. So I think they are also, both countries, India and US, I think are getting onto the same page now insofar as Pakistan is concerned, that somehow they need to be literally sort of coaxed out of this, their steep dive into extremism. And insofar as terrorism is concerned, there are frequent expressions of support to India, commiseration, including President Obama said this morning about the Jammu and Kashmir, the latest incident in Jammu and Kashmir. But you're right, in terms of actual ground level cooperation between intelligence agencies, doesn't seem to be happening very well. There are wrinkles there. I put it down personally to bureaucracies and different styles of functioning. But at the higher level, I think there is a will that the two sides should work together to get Pakistan out of this incredibly self-destructive path.
Thank you, Chidaran, for those insightful answers. It is not just the US that is keen to raise Indo-US relations to the next level, but even Dr. Manmohan Singh has shown very clearly that he is willing to go the extra mile.